I'm just kind of playing around a little bit. We've got a beautiful day. Nice weather. It's just kind of the calm before the storm because there is some cold weather coming. It's not going to be overly cold. It's just going to be like, you know, freezing just beneath it, maybe a bit of snow. But it's not going to last long. This is exactly what we get here in Brittany. What I'm doing today is I'm going to be just adding a little bit of pollen sub to my mini nukes. Now, they've got plenty of feed. They're all nice and heavy. And in the pollen sub, it's Ultra B, which was 60% crude. I think it's 60% crude when I think it's 60% crude in the powder. But obviously in there I've added sugar syrup when I mix it up. So there's a good deal of fructose within that as well. So am I risking it giving pollen sub this time of year? Well, the way I look at it for us here is we have a very, very explosive spring. And what I mean by that is, I mean, we go from like hardly any pollen to loads of pollen. Because when spring does start, and it can start easily in March, if we give pollen sub now, it means the bees can have some extra stuff to work on while they're just beginning to start flying. And they don't always fly in March, and we have had snow in March, yes, but generally we always have enough weather, enough flying weather where they can get out and poop. So to me, if you're going to give a pollen sub and you think it's beneficial, and if you can get it on in mid-February, I think it's a winner, because you don't give them too much. You just give them that a little bolus of it. It's right above the brood nest for me, so I believe it's a really good thing to do. It gives them some protein, and it gives them some sugars, some carbohydrate just when they might be needing it. So if you do have a cold snap and they're getting low on stores and they're also confined to one single cluster, in other words, anything else around them except what's in the peripheries of the colony, that's what isolation starvation is, where you can have a small colony and it can go this time of year because they haven't got enough nearby. And by putting on a pollen sub with fructose in it, or sucrose, if you've got buy bags of sugar, that's fine. If you put that on this time of year, you are buying yourself a little bit of time, I think. You're buying yourself a little bit of reserve, a little bit of you know, extra, so that if they do run out, if the weather goes pants, yeah, I know there's always this, my bees haven't flown for 6 weeks and they need to poop, and you're only going to make it worse. I kind of agree and I disagree, because I've never seen bees dying from not pooping. They always seem to get through it. And for my bees have flown last week. They're flying today a little bit. So I know that they can last at least a week, and I think it's a pretty safe bet they're going to have a cleansing flight within the next 2 weeks. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I won't put it on after the end of February, because I feel that there'll be so much natural pollen coming in then that it's a waste of time. It certainly won't be detrimental, but it's just there's so much pollen coming on, and the bees have such a drive and such an incentive to bring in pollen when they can, that there's no need to give any extra. And what's the best stuff? It's what's around that's the best stuff. I totally agree with that. I'm just talking about filling in a gap when there's not much going on, and I have time now. I have the material, I have the feed. It just takes time and organisation, but if you're happy to do it, it can only mean better bees. So what are my bees doing right now? Well, I've still got one more apiary to treat, but I can't actually get to it because it's padlocked up in, I have a really, really cool apiary in this disused dump, where they used to use it for dumping inert waste. Now what's happened is, unfortunately, the group of communes, that's like parishes we call it here, that owned it have now been enlarged, and there's like 60 of our communes in one area. And because there was loads of kids playing on the site, They've padlocked it off, but they've obviously forgot to give me a key. But no one seems to know who has the key, which is like very frustrating, but we'll get through it. So I'm waiting to do that apiary, but they're all alive. Now, in terms of my winter losses at the moment, I have got some winter losses, but I'm happy to tell you that I'm much more confident than I was this time last week, because they've all been flying, and I've been to other apiaries after I've treated post Varroa treatments, and it's fantastic. I'm getting 17s and 18s out of 17, if you know what I mean. What I'm saying is I'm only losing 1 or 2 in each apiary, which is absolutely fantastic. So I'm quietly crossing my fingers. They're all going to have pollen sub within 2 weeks. So I'm mixing it up at the workshop tomorrow probably. And they're all going to be fed and given that extra feed in case it gets, in case they need it. And if they don't need it, they'll eat it anyway, or they'll do something with it. But the thing is not to give them too much, as I said. Just give them enough. Just give them a bit, just as a bit of an insurance. So I'm really, really excited now. I'm completely I don't want to get too excited this time of year, because it's very easy to get too excited. But basically, all my mini plus that I did get into winter, that's over 40 of them, they all seem to be alive, which I cannot believe. Not that, why shouldn't I think that? Why shouldn't they be? Well, after last year, we had a lot of problems. And I went into last autumn trying to do as many things as I could. And it seems to have paid off somewhere. I haven't sat down, done nothing. It's still not perfect. I still have mites. I still have issues, but they're always there, those things. We just have to keep on top of them. I really think now that this coming year, the way forward is oxalic acid for me once a month, or if not once every 6 weeks, or in a timed fashion as part of my IPM. It seems to me that that's the only way we're going to be able to keep numbers down. I know it's a lot of work, but because I've been vaping a lot over the winter, I really am finding that the process gets easier and easier once you do it more often, because you just get so used to it, And just walking through here, I'm seeing some hives there all flying nicely. And everything is okay. I wouldn't expect anything. We're still second week of February, and all those people out there asking me this question, Guy, you really expect a lot from your bees early? I'm not. I'm just putting things into place. They're just thinking of brooding now, or then maybe the queen might be brooding. Got some lovely colonies here. They're all really good. They're all alive. They're just ticking over. They're all still heavy. This is what I want. What I look for in my selections, I look for colonies that are calm, obviously, but my next thing is, when I'm looking around them this time of year, if I find a colony that's hardly used any stores, that's what I want. I'm hardly seeing, and the colonies I've got here, I'm seeing no stores depletion. These hives are just ticking over nicely. Lovely little buckfast here. They're all out in the sunshine. It's absolutely lovely to see. And it's just, like I said in my previous video, it gives you that tonic when you come out in your apiary and you see bees fly and they're healthy and they're still heavy. So up at the workshop, we've been doing quite a lot of work. We did, as you know, we dropped one end of the barn. We've re-gravelled all that. What we're doing now is we're continuing to just finish off some tidying up. We've got I can show you the picture now, but we're just digging out some base foundations to cap the bottom of a wall to help keep the damp out before we gravel the whole car park area. So it's like there's been loads to do. I have finished my frames. I think I've done 1,500 for me and my colleague. That will just get through us the spring, hopefully. And it's kind of like, I'm really glad that's done, because it was the perfect time to do it for me, and it was the perfect time to make use of the rubbish weather. But now we're got a little bit of more settled weather for the time being. It's nice to get some of those outside jobs done. And I said before, for me, it's all about how you feel about doing things, because when you feel right about doing them at the right time, you put your energy into them. When I used to do a lot of landscape gardening, I used to absolutely detest having to cut grass in November, December time when it doesn't need it, but you're duty bound by a contract to cut it because it's pointless, and you put your machines through all this grief. You get cold and wet, the mowers get completely ruined, and then you think, what am I doing this for? But it's what you do. But when you do a job at the right time and you enjoy doing it because it's the time to do it, and you know it's in your plan, you get it. I think you get it done even quicker because you schedule it, or schedule it, whatever you want to call it. But it's just, you get that feeling that it's done at the right time, and there's nothing better than that. So we're going to be finished at the workshop soon. We're going to be doing, I think, if we get a warmish spell, we're going to be doing our first inspections when I'll be taking out the overwintered partitions and put in our frames of foundation. That'll be 2 new frames of foundation in every colony. I'm really going to be on top of things this year because I have to be. I cannot allow anything not to be inspected, not to be done. It's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to be rewarding because I'm going to see the fruits of my labour this year more than anything that I've ever had before. Because it's only this that's going to sustain me from now on, and it's only my actions that are going to bring in the money and keep me in bees. Because as the expression goes, and everyone knows it, if you look after the bees, they'll look after you. Look at these lovely bees, hardly moving. Nice cluster, absolutely fantastic. It's a bit colder now. That's exactly what I want to see, you know. We're still getting some humidity here, but the bees are clustering just great. So they're going to get a pollen sob now. They're up in the top now, but I don't know how many bees in the bottom. I'm not going to look. So we'll just put this on here like that. Just give, they can crawl around that. As long as I always like to give them an escape hatch, they can always get back in. Then the that goes around, and I just put the lid straight back on top of there. So they've got food if they want it. They're still insulated because inside here that's insulated as well. The roof's insulated. It just gives them an extra compartment. And the roofs, these never blow off, you know, never seen any blow off. So, you know, this is just perfect. On this one here, I've given one of my production colonies, but this isn't a production colony as such, but I've given it a whole pollen sob because I've got a nice clear plastic polythene top on it. It means I can look through it and monitor it the next few days, see what they're doing with it. Even if it goes cold, I can still peek without causing any problems. So all these here, they've all had a pollen sub up to here, and I haven't got enough to finish all these, but I'm just going to get down as many as I can, and then I'm going to just finish off the far side. But this is a good thing to try. I don't think I'll lose any colonies by doing it. I think it'll only benefit them. You know, what's not to like? It's lovely weather. Look at that beautiful sunset. It's just so nice to be out here. With my 6-frame nukes, some are 5, some are 6 within, but they all will be 6-frame nukes very shortly because they're all starting to grow. But this is what I do. You can have a little quick look at the cluster. Plenty of bees there, don't want to disturb them anymore, but what I'm going to do is just give them some extra feed. Now this is actually quite nice and heavy, but this is what I use. I use a polystyrene egg. I do sometimes put feeders in the middle of this, and I just get my sugar block, just put it on like that. But I always leave a little access so the bees can kind of crawl around. They like to be on top of the block as well, and when you're looking after, they'll be all over it, but over the whole thing. And then what I use is I use one of these aluminiums, and that gives an extra seal around the top of the frame, top of the poly. The poly sits on directly on top there like that. There's your sugar block in the middle, and then on goes your roof. Now they aren't secured on, so I use something heavy like a rock or a brick. I've got to find some more. There's 2 here, and I tend to put one on each end because these design of roofs, they tend to bow up a bit. But once that's on, that won't be moving in. If it's going to be really, really windy, it could still come off, but I can strap it down then if I need to. And then it's sealed. It's a sealed unit, and the bees can get right up to that block when they want to. The humidity rising from the colony will make it moist as they use it up. It's not my... What I do also use is these. I use these tiles that we use in the summer to cover the mini nukes. But they're all done. They're all fed. This one here, I've used some of this sugar that I got. It's a really big colony, this one. And I want to make sure it's got plenty of stores. Really nice sized colony, full of bees. And they're really gentle. This is one of my mark and breeder queens, so I've given them a whole bag of feed. The actual colony weighs a lot as well. I would have just given them pollen sub, but I've just used it up. I haven't got any left. So that pollen sub I was using is what I mixed up last year. So for the time being, that's fine. If it goes cold, they've got food, they've got feed. The thing is, what I really like to do is make sure I protect my breeder queens more than anything. Obviously, I want to protect them all, but my breeder queens are my most important thing because that's my next year's stock, or this year's stock for next year. So, yeah, we're done here. One more to do actually here, see what this is doing. Oh, they're alive, good. These aren't very nice, pretty nasty bees, but they'll do for an out apiary and the grumpy apiary. You can see they're quite runny. Give them a sugar block, that'll shut them up and get them a top. I really hate bees like that. When I'll have a big move around of colonies in the next few weeks. I'll plan it all and I'll put all my best colonies in here, and my least favourable colonies will go to the naughty yard where they can be bees but they won't be affecting anybody. They'll just do what they do. I've got to find some rocks for that, but that's done as well. So, and there you have it. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Extra insurance for the bees. The whole apiary is fed and it's still lovely and sunny. Look at that. A really beautiful rare day, and it was lovely to be feeding some bees that are still alive and looking good. So, back at the workshop tomorrow, we're getting that concreting done. This week we are expecting, as I said, cold weather. So we're going to be carrying on with the inside jobs. We've got the mini plus frames to do as well now. They've got to be done, so it's a good time to get them done, but that's kind of 2 or 3 days work, isn't so much. But it's all good. While we're here, I'll just show you this beautiful Lonicera I've got planted all around the apiaries here, and it's just coming into flower. I had to hack this one back a bit, but it's called Lonicera fragrantissima, and those are the delightful little flowers that come out, and they give the bees some early pollen and quite a bit of nectar. I think I can smell it. It really smells quite rich in it, but it's a lovely shrub and it grows like mad. Dead easy to grow. Just starting to come into flower now. So in the next few weeks that will give the bees some extra stuff right near the colonies where they are, and it's all good. Another hedge of it there. This one's growing a little bit more, and you can see that. Beautiful little flowers. I would say they're pretty interested in that. Eating it from the front there, as you can see through there. So I'm just back the day after. A little look under here. Yeah, they're all over it pretty well. Don't want to disturb them anymore. So put this back on it, leave them to it. It's a little bit early, but it's on. It's the only production hive with it on so far. They seem to be enjoying it. Just leave that alone now. They're all quiet in their hive. I put on the sugar blocks, see what these are doing. I'd say they're pretty enjoying that. Good, let's leave them to it. Really is bitter out here today. Just as you saw, had a look at that. So I'm pretty pleased. That means they've got extra sugar, they're licking it away, they're getting stores into their colony if they need it. I don't think they need it anyway, but they've got it. So I've just mixed up a load of pollen sub this morning at the workshop. Big load of it, enough for about 100 hives. So I'm gonna get that on next week into my production hives, and it might well be kicking off then. See what the temperature is going to be like, but it's nearly the time to start. We're getting there. Whatever you're doing, be well. Catch you again soon. Bye for now.